Um, we have a number of things to get through, so I'll go ahead and get started. First of all, of course, Rawls County is going live next week on the 24th. Um, and so with those migrations, the week before, we do need to kind of put a sort of cataloging freeze. It's not like a full freeze. Again, it's just we cannot delete any bib records. Oh, I hear some extra sound going on. Is somebody
Yes,
unmuted?
somebody definitely needs to mute.
I'm gonna see if I can go through and help mute people. I think we got it. Anyway, so as I was saying, during this week, to prepare for Rawls County as their data is being migrated in, we do need to hold off any merges or bib record deletions. So that is again all this week. I try to do it the best you can. Yeah, I don't know if you need to put a little sticky note on your monitor or what works best for you, but that is the situation this week. And I know I always get questions about this after the fact. You can add items, you can add bib records, you can move your items or delete your items. The only caveat with that is if it is going to end up deleting a bib record because it's the last item on there, that's when we can't do it. So for the most part, you can add and edit your items as needed. It's just, once it gets to the point where it might delete a bib record, that's where we need to put the pause on for this week. And if you need to, write down the TCN so you can go back to it later, once we can start deleting or merging again, that might be a good way of kind of working through that. In addition to that, I wanted to kind of go back through some of the process regarding the cataloging certification. So far, we've actually had 14 people or 14 submissions total. So 10 people have completed the basic and 4 people have completed the advanced. So congratulations to those who were able to jump in there. I'm maybe a few hours into the basic, so it's gonna take some time to get through it all. But, we're all gonna get through it together. Okay, and so back to the process there. Again, all of that information is located on the Missouri Evergreen website. If you go under member resources, there is a cataloging certification page that you can go to, and it talks again about the process, the different levels, and it does link to those documents and then the whole playlists for each of those training video playlists. So as you go through, you read through the document, you work through the test server to kind of test out the information that you're being given, and then at the end there is an assessment where you are to take some screenshots of the work that you've done while following the documentation. So all in all, it's a pretty simple process, and you'll email that document on to Greg to review, and you'll get a certificate in the end saying, hey, you completed it. And again, this is not going to have to be finished until August. So we have still some time, but so, if you can't do it immediately, or if you're really busy right now, just know that you can do a little bit at a time to get kind of whittle down that task. Okay. So kind of going back to something I mentioned earlier, you are going to have to take screenshots as part of that process. And so to help with that, Greg did send out an email that I hope everyone saw regarding how to take screenshots, just in case that was something that you weren't familiar with. There's a number of ways to do it. I think one of the easiest ways that he mentioned in his email, of course, was to use the print screen button, which might be in different places on different keyboards and different computers, but for the most part, it's pretty easy to see. On the keyboard, there's a print screen button. You might have to hold down the function key to operate that as well, and then you can paste that into a Word document or whatever you need. Well, most likely a Word document if not a rich text format. Alternatively, a lot of Windows computers also have the snipping tool, which is something I keep on hand on my taskbar here. So the snipping tool is a nice little built-in tool for a lot of Windows devices where you can do screenshots. So once you open that up, I like to just click New. Kind of gives you like this grayed out thing, lets you know you're making that selection. And then you can kind of select with that selection tool, and it's going to create that screenshot. I hear some extra voices. Just in case anyone's forgotten, please uh, hit your mute button unless you have questions. Thanks. So again, with the screenshots, once you've used this tool, there is a copy option, or you can save that image file. So whatever works easiest for you. I like to copy and then paste into the document I'm working in. So there's a few options for trying to do screenshots. Also, I guess we're using a different program. Everyone can see my screen, right? Okay, perfect. It's looks a little different than what I'm used to, but I just wanted to make sure because it isn't as indicative that it's showing what I'm looking at.
I
Okay, so
can't see
that's
because this doesn't even work on my computer. This is Warren. I'm trying to use my cell phone.
oh, hey Warren. Um,
Hi.
so you said you're having some difficulties connecting?
The old way worked, but this doesn't work.
Hmm.
I don't know what it is. It blocks access through the firewall. It won't download things, etc. I have no idea. And I've never used Zoom.
Okay. Um, well, that might be something to check with your IT team about, especially since Zoom is going to kind of be the standard, I think, for the consortium. Initially we were all kind of using our own whatever tool we had available,
Yes.
but I think we are kind of moving towards Zoom. So if you're having any difficulties with it, you might check with your IT team. As of right now, if I will have the recording made available after the fact.
Okay.
So if you can't see it now, I guess you can get the information and then kind of look at the recording later. Sorry that you're having difficulties.
That's cool. Thank you.
Moving on from there, we are planning some regional trainings. As you might have heard, we are kind of working with Oregon County right now to, at their request, we're hoping that someone could come by for an in-person training to help with the certification. Based off that need, we're trying to organize so that other libraries in that area could attend that same training. And so likewise, we are working with libraries throughout the state to try to choose some centralized locations for different regions of Missouri, so that we can try and make it so that you don't have to travel too far in case that you are interested in doing an in-person training. Now, once we get those kind of organized, we'll be able to send out notices so that people know where the nearest location is going to be and kind of when that might be. Now, with those trainings, you will be given the information about how to complete the different tasks, but we still will be expecting everyone to submit the assessment at the end. So you'll get the information, but you still will be expected to do those screenshots and send those in to complete that certification.
I also kind of want to note, sorry, Nate, that we don't want people to, we still want the 6 months in August. So don't necessarily count on there being a regional training in your area, because we might not be able to make that happen before that 6-month term. So, I start working at your own pace on that certification.
Yes, thanks, Kate. Yeah, we're hoping to make sure that every region will be able to have a in-person training before then, but it's going to take a bit of time to plan and make sure that we can get Greg to travel or whomever to travel to each location and make that possible. So yes, please, don't rely on that, but just know that that may be an option in the future. Okay, moving right along, we do have an update to Evergreen that is scheduled for Wednesday, April 20th. At least that was the date I remember checking last time. Last time I looked, we will be upgrading to 3.8. Currently, we're on like 3.6.4 or 3. So it'll be quite a jump. We'll be jumping the 3.7 up to 3.8. So that is essentially two upgrades worth of changes. Now, granted, through that time, some of those 3.7 features do seem to have been added in with some of our Sequoia updates over the past few months. So not everything that is in 3.7 is going to just, be dropped on our plate along with 3.8. Some of those things we do have, some of those features are available now and implemented now, but just know that there are some changes coming. All that information is available on the Evergreen ILS website, so I'll be able to link that in the notes for sure, but it's evergreen-ils.org. And under their documentation section, they have a tabular release notes, which is really helpful if you want to be able to see what's coming with each release. So for example, they have this 3.8 tab here, and you can kind of see how it's broken up between different sections. So there's kind of a general OPAC, just general changes to the interface. There's a cataloging section, a circulation section. It kind of goes on down the line there. I thought there was, in the past, there had been some, maybe a handout that was a little easier to see. There's also, maybe it's right here. I see a link, 3.8 release notes. Okay, yeah, there's a whole HTML site that you can kind of go through and see all the information if you want kind of the in-depth information on each of those features or those changes. There was also a webinar that Equinox held recently. I believe that was shared out with the listserv so that everyone could see or have the link to that recording. It has some wonderful handouts as well. I believe Greg even shared one specifically targeting the changes to the item editor, so which is something I'm going to go over in this meeting as well. So long story short, 3.8 is coming, but will not be until the end of April. And one of the big changes, again, is going to be to our item editor. So here I am in the test server. I have a record open here for a book. And if I go to holdings view, and I select my library, and let's say I want to add a copy to my Concordia, everything looks the same right now. I'm adding call numbers and items. But once you get to the holdings editor page itself, it is a bit different. So, you're used to seeing the call number information at the top, and then you generally should be able to scroll to the bottom and see the item information. That is still available, it's just on a different page. So now they're kind of organized in tabs rather than one page that you scroll up and down on. So we can still, of course, do our call numbers the same way. So if you have multiple ones, you can put that information up top and hit apply, put in your barcodes, add your parts. All those features are still there. And then, of course, we can apply all and save to make sure that that information is saved. Oh, I must have done something wrong. Oh, probably because I didn't have a barcode. Oh, okay. Yep. So once you hit apply all and save, you then can go over to the item attributes, and you'll still be able to have all your templates like you used to. So up here, there's the templates. I'll select the one that's appropriate here and hit apply. As it changes those fields, you're going to see, cancel. You'll see that those have turned green, so you can kind of see that those are the affected fields that were impacted by your template. Again, a lot of these fields can be made visible or just make them disappear by going to the preferences section. And again, on each of these tabs, you're going to want to do this apply all and save button at the bottom to make sure that your changes are saved before moving on to the other tabs. Otherwise, they will not be. Here you can kind of say what you do and don't want seen in that item attributes tab. And lots of settings for you to kind of peruse through, and essentially it's going to be whatever works best for you and your workflow. So just kind of keep that in mind as we're transitioning to that. And I think some of this is available in our current one. It just looks a little different. So for anyone who's not using that now, just note that that is something that you can do, is to update those preferences. Okay, and so for the most part, that's what seems to be changing. A lot of it is just the way that it looks. It still functions in a very similar way. You're just gonna have to remember that apply all and save as you finish up with your call numbers and moving over to your items. Once you're all done with all the information, you can just do apply all, save, and exit. And that's what will finish that process. And much like before, you might have to refresh the page to see the item having been fully added. Yep, and there it is.
And Nate, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Will you go back into your editor? I wanted to point out a couple of things to people so that they are aware of it.
Sure. Okay.
When you start on that page that he's on right now, you have to click over into the item attributes to do the holdings editor. I wanted to point out that all of these are the same fields that we used to have. They've actually just broken them down into 5 logical columns going down. So it makes a little bit more sense. It's not as mishmashed as it was previously. You can also actually get this page to show up in your holdings section the same time that you add a call number and add your item number by going into preferences. And I think if you go all the way to the very bottom,
Yeah, I'm at the bottom here.
yeah, somewhere there is a setting that lets you put it all on one page. I can't remember where it is, but I know I found it when I was playing with it the other day.
Okay, well, that'd be very...
Oh, Unify Holdings, that's it. So if you check that and hit apply, now everything is back on the same page, which makes it a lot easier.
So there you go. It's just more customizable now. So yeah, that's a very good tip, Greg. Thank you very much for pointing that out. So yes, if you still like everything to be all on one page, I guess we can just make that possible by clicking that Unified Holdings and Item Attributes Display. I'll try to make sure that that's in the notes so that as people want to go back to that in the future, we'll have that in writing somewhere. Thanks, Greg.
You're welcome.
Perfect. So again, that's a quick overview of the changes coming to the Holdings editor. There are a few other changes, but we'll kind of go over those more in depth. I'm going to try, or in the future, I'm going to try and put together like a quick cheat sheet of some of the changes we might be expecting. I don't think I saw anything else that was going to be a drastic change. For the most part, bug fixes and improvements will be coming. So that is some good news. Okay, so moving on to our kind of our practical section. I know recently I've gotten some questions or some I guess, yeah, just questions about subject headings, genres, and forms. Some of those topics have come up in help desk emails as well as even with my own staff. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone was kind of on the same page about the differences and kind of how those are recorded. So for the most part, subject headings are going to be recorded in a 650. I'm going to go ahead and pull up OCLC's mark information. So there, of course, are different types of subject headings. We have our topical terms, we have geographic ones, we have personal names. But for the most part, we're going to keep it simple and just kind of differentiate between those topical ones and our genre terms, since those can be mixed up a little bit more in some of our records. So again, the 650, those are going to be our topical subjects. So what something is about. So for the examples that we were looking at previously, this is a fantasy fiction book. So looking at that, it is in the 650 here, we see a subject heading for women scientists, and we see a topical subject heading about dragons. So this is a book that is about women scientists and is about dragons. Now, sometimes, there's also a subject heading in there available for fantasy fiction, but the distinction here that we're wanting to make is that this is not about fantasy fiction, it is fantasy fiction, which, I mean, I can see how that can be confusing in its own way. So putting the information fantasy fiction, that subject heading, in a 650 on this record would not really be all that helpful, or wouldn't be quite applicable. Instead, we'd want to put that information into a 655, which is where we are going to record our genre forms, genre form terms, our LCGFT. So let's go to 655. So on a 655, again, this is going to be where we're entering our genres and our forms. So you can see here in that second indicator, we can kind of tell the MARC record where we're getting that information, what vocabulary we're using. There currently is not an indicator that would tell us that we are using LCGFT, which is that Library of Congress genre form terms, which is what we are using as a consortium for our genres. So if you're wanting to add a genre to it, 655 is going to be the most applicable, and you will want to choose the second indicator 7, which, if I know it's kind of small here, is going to tell us that we are specifying the source rather than choosing one of these already existing vocabularies. And so in that instance, you would put 7. So let's go back to our record. So that's 655, second indicator 7 to say that we're specifying the source. Our entry is fantasy fiction. And then our source is LCGFT for Library of Congress genre informed terms. So again, the 650 is going to be for our topical subjects, our Library of Congress subject headings, LCSH, and that is indicated by the second indicator 0. On that one, we can see, again, there's multiple vocabularies that one can use in a 650, but we're, as a consortium, are using LCSH. So 650, Library of Congress subject headings, 655, using Library of Congress genre and form terms. And so that's kind of the distinction there. Again, the 650, what something is about, 655, what something really is. And so there's, of course, lots of different options there. And so kind of gets, if you're not sure what needs to go where, you can always refer back to this. Additionally, you can kind of look at a number of tools, kind of point you in the right direction. Here, of course, people can use the Library of Congress authorities to look at our subject headings. Another tool I like to use is the Library of Congress's linked data service, which functions a little differently and I think is a little, can be confusing. So let's go ahead and look at the authorities. You can click search authorities, and here you'll see subject authority headings, name authority headings, and so on. So this one actually does not seem to have information about the Library of Congress genre and form terms, which is maybe a reason to use the linked data service, this other link that I have provided here. So on this one, you can select what you're wanting to search through. So by default, it is the LCSH, our subject headings, but you can go down here and actually select genre and form terms. So if you aren't sure if something is the correct genre term to put in that 655, you can search in here. So I know for mysteries, it's, detective and mystery. And this is applicable across multiple media types. So if you have a TV series that you're cataloging and want to indicate that this is like a mystery TV show, we can pop in detective and mystery television programs. And you can see here that this is the LCGFT, and that this is a genre form term, in case you were concerned that it wasn't part of that vocabulary. So again, another place that you can kind of use to look up some of that information. Library of Congress also has just lists of these, which you could use. I think they're a little bit more complicated and cumbersome to use because you have to open up that document and maybe do like Control F to find the term you're looking for. So I prefer using tools like this that are a little bit more user-friendly. But with that comes sometimes some confusion, making sure that you're searching the right thing. Okay. Do we have any questions about subject headings or genre form terms or anything like that? Oh my gosh, I'm not opening the chat. Oh, looks like somebody's got some feedback. I think the feedback that Greg provided earlier about the item editor, but I don't see any new questions or comments. Okay. Well, that was kind of everything that I had for the meeting today. Are there any other questions or comments that anyone would like to share with the group?
I know that there was talk on a listserv. I don't know if it was the general Missouri Evergreen or CERC. But the issue that we were having with placing holds in the item table, that is going to be fixed in the Sequoia update on Wednesday night. So by Thursday morning, we should be able to place holds like we always could. And just FYI, that happened because of a Chrome and an Edge update. So that's why it went all funky on us. It didn't like Evergreen's code. The upgrade didn't, or the browser update didn't like the Evergreen code, so that will be fixed. That's great news.
No, that's awesome. I'm glad they were able to push that in so quickly. Okay, anything else for the group? If not, then thank you all for joining us, and our next meeting will be Monday, April 11th. Thank you all. And of course, if you forgot to during the meeting, please be sure to put your name and your library in the chat for attendance.
Thanks, Nate.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nate.